for Bring Your Own Lunch. Personal stories about the business with my daddy, Dave T. Kenning.
All right, come on in, have a seat. Welcome. This is the Bring Your Own Lunch podcast at BringYourOwnLunch.com, the magic of iTunes, the majesty of Stitcher, and however you found your way to download this podcast, I thank you. As you heard at the top, my name is Dave T. Koenig. I'm an actor, writer, director, producer, comedian, all-around swell dude. I'm battening down the hatches for a hurricane in October, so everything's normal there. And, of course, I'm the host of the podcast you're listening to right now. BYOL is the hashtag you can use if you want to say hi on social media. Like us on Facebook.com/BringYourOwnLunch. You can follow us on Twitter at BYOL Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at BringYourOwnLunch. And if that's too diverse, you can always go to the website, the mothership, if you will, BringYourOwnLunch.com, where you can find out all the information about the guests on this program, past, present, and presumably future. And you can always send me an email, of course, at dave@bringyourownlunch.com. My guest this week is awesome. Julliard-trained actor, Broadway veteran, writer, director, Keith Eric Chappelle. Fascinating guy. He's got a great story. The kind of guy who didn't follow that prescribed path. I think one of the things I talk about a lot on this podcast is that there is no prescribed path for getting into this business, and the inspiration to get in can happen at any time. And in Keith's situation, he didn't even think about getting into the acting game until he was in community college, and he managed to find his way in that way, and he has enjoyed a great career since then. We talk about his past and how he performed on Broadway in front of the president and the first lady, which is a great story. And we also talk a lot about race. I always tell my guests that there is no agenda for this podcast, and whatever subject we get on, that's okay by me. And I'm so glad I do that sometimes, because we get to have really intelligent, in-depth conversations about things that are not necessarily directly related to acting or the entertainment business, but certainly do affect what we do as professionals. And Keith and I get into a great conversation about it. It ends up being one of my favorite conversations I've had on this podcast. He's got a lot of fascinating ideas about it. I'd like to think we discovered things individually, and our act of discovery will hopefully help you and bring the level of discourse up to a higher level, because boy, oh boy, we can sure use some good discourse in this world right now, can't we? I think so. So I'm excited to bring you that conversation. For me, recently, I had a chance to do a reading of a play written by my friend Mario Corey, who is somebody I met doing another reading. The reading was directed by Jonathan Libman, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, and he's the guy who directed the original reading I did with Mario back when we met several years ago. But this one's a comedy. It's really funny stuff. I don't want to tell too much about it or who was involved, because it actually is going to take a next step, and I believe what's eventually going to happen is it's going to be a public staged reading of this play, which happens to be called Walter's Dead, and I'm really excited about it. It was a lot of fun to be there and to do that, and I really appreciate Mario for reaching out and offering me the chance to do that reading. And I love doing readings. They're a great way to exercise the instrument. They're a great way to make contacts, and I met some really great people doing that reading last week, and I highly recommend them. If somebody you know is doing something, they're writing something, and even if they haven't thought to do it, just say, hey, let's do a reading of that. Because for you as an actor, let's say, you can get some exercise and do your thing without necessarily having to worry so much about the preparation of learning the lines and stuff like that. It just gives you a chance to do some cold reads, which is a completely different skill, but one that's super, super valuable. And not to mention, you can also help the writer who, in having a reading of their play or screenplay or whatever out loud, they get a chance to hear what it's like when it's interpreted by an actor. And for them, that's incredibly valuable. I know as a writer, I love hearing what I do read out loud. And so many times you write something a certain way and you have a specific idea of how that line should be read. But if you sit back and you just watch, you find that there is even more good stuff within what you wrote than you realized, because it's been interpreted by somebody who has a fresh pair of eyes. So I highly recommend getting involved in the whole business of reading your scripts out loud, whether you're a writer or a director or an actor. Also had some fun looking online, and I haven't mentioned my brother all that much on this podcast. My brother Jeff. I've talked about my sister Jennifer before, but I don't know if I've even mentioned my brother Jeff, who shares a little bit of history in the acting game with me, because we both started as kid actors on a very small level when we were very young. I think I was 12 and he was 7, something like that. He did some background work on Brighton Beach Memoirs, and he did some TV work and stuff like that, but he's no longer in the business. But one of his first experiences was doing an IBM commercial, and it wasn't cast in the standard way. There was a program that was out there that worked with schools to bring computers in and teach reading and spelling in a new way. And they created a commercial for it, and they went to our elementary school, which was Shelter Rock School on Long Island in Manhasset, and they decided to work with the kindergartners in that school at that time, specifically my brother's class. And what he got to do was he got to go into this fake classroom, which was built in one of the multi-purpose rooms at Shelter Rock School that was filled with IBM computers, and he got to pretend to do some spelling while they shot him and several of his classmates. And he got his moment in the sun, because there's a shot of just him at a computer, and it's very cool. And I remember being at that shoot way back when, and I remembered that the kid who was sort of the lead, the spokesperson in that commercial was Scott Grimes, who went on to a pretty good career, and he was on ER, and he voices the character of Steve Smith on American Dad, which I love. So it was kind of cool to know that my brother worked with Scott Grimes way back when, and Scott Grimes has continued to climb the ladder of success over the years. But I kind of had forgotten about that commercial until for some reason I decided to look for it last night, and I found it. So I have the IBM commercial featuring Scott Grimes and my brother up on the website in the show notes for this episode at bringyourownlunch.com. So go check that out. There's a screen cap of my brother, as well as the actual commercial itself from YouTube. And it's a kick. I don't know if you'll enjoy it as much as I do. I mean, maybe I have a little bit more of a sentimental attachment to it, but you might be a Scott Grimes fan. So go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And in addition to that stuff, there's some extra pictures of Keith Eric Chappelle that I put up there. That he sent me various moments of his career. So I think there's plenty to look at the website this week. Before we get to the interview, got to thank Banuba, banuba.net, BANOOBA.net. That's the band that plays the music at the beginning, middle, and end of this show. They are fantastic. Please go to their website, buy their music, download their music, go see them live. They're a great live band. They support us with their beautiful, beautiful art. I want to support them by having you go check them out. And if you do, tell them Dave says hi. And if you really want to help out Bring Your Own Lunch, the easiest and best way to do it is to go to iTunes and or Stitcher and rate, review, and subscribe to Bring Your Own Lunch. And in doing so, you'll tell Stitcher and iTunes that we're doing a good job and that they should promote us to other people and let them know that we're doing a good job. And the nicer the things you say, the better, and the more stars you give, the better. But you knew that. You didn't need me to tell you. But by subscribing, you get this show as soon as it comes out. I think if you are a bit of a listener of this show, you know that sometimes the schedule can be a little bit rocky. That's the nature of the business. And so as soon as this show comes out, you get it. You don't have to wait around for an announcement or anything like that. You are right there with us. So subscribe to the show. It's healthy, it's gluten-free, and it's a lot of fun, and I'd appreciate it. All right, let's get into it with Keith Eric Chappelle, Julliard graduate, Long Island native, presidential performer, newspaper business alumni. We'll find out. Here's Keith Eric Chappelle. Enjoy. Keith Eric. Yeah. I always have to keep reminding myself when I think of your name that it's in that order. Yeah. You know? Where do you use both names a lot, or do you? Where did that came from?
Because my dad's name is Keith E. Chappelle as well.
Okay.
His initials. So, but his middle name is Edgar.
Oh, okay.
So, for actually tax purposes, I always go by Keith Eric Chappelle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's actually why. But my mom is the one who gave me the Eric name. Dad is Keith as well. So,
just to differentiate.
I grew up actually being called both names.
Do you think it's helped having that sort of drilled into your head for acting purposes? Because it's hard to distinguish yourself as, your name. I mean, I've had a hard enough time with my last name, and I had to throw the T in there because there was another, Dave Koenig or Dave Koenig out there. So, did you get enough practice doing that to the point where you have to like establish your identity pretty well?
I guess it just, everybody always said that they thought it was a really nice name. And I always said, I wanted to be more of an adult than I wanted to be a kid.
Yeah.
So by having the 3 names, it kind of, I felt like it always made people actually look at me more as an adult.
It does sound very important when you have that. It's Keith Eric Chappelle. It's not just like
Samuel L. Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that sounded really. It's a good.
It's a great acting name. It is. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you sound. It sounds important.
Yeah.
It sounds large. Perfect word for it.
Yes.
It totally sounds large. When you introduce yourself to people, what do you usually go with?
I usually say Keith.
You usually say Keith.
Yeah, if it's just a friendly, informal thing, I usually say Keith. If it's formal, if it's business, I'll say Keith Eric.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I don't remember when you and I met because it was, you have those chance meetings at a gig, and you're like, I remember you, and I remember what we worked on and all that stuff. But that first moment when we introduced ourselves to each other, I
think I just said Keith.
You may have. Yeah, and I'll be darned if I remember. So in my mind, I always have these 2 names in my head. Yeah. Actually 3 names if you count your last name. So it's funny how we can remember certain things and can't. What do you remember from the gig we worked on together?
Oh gosh, did we do? Was that Radio Shack?
No. So that tells you how much you remember it.
Wow. Okay, so that was. Which one was it then?
It was for Garmin.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we were.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. We didn't actually work on the same spot, but we were there the same day.
We were there the same day. We were all shooting the same day, and we were all in the trailer.
Yeah. And for me, it was a weird kind of thing because Garmin has since kind of been made irrelevant in certain ways by iPhones
Maps.
and by Google Maps. Yeah. So people don't really have dedicated GPSs as nearly as much as they did back then. So, the hope of that spot.
I know.
Yeah. Became.
And it really, that stuff started coming on like literally right after we did that commercial.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Like, it was funny.
It was like we shot it and the next day there was big headlines that said GPS no longer needed. Yeah. Just use your phone. You'll be fine. Yeah.
I think my dad bought a car a couple months later that already had the GPS thing inside it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So proud. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And it has to be like an 8-track player soon enough. Yeah. And what's weird sometimes, you can speak to this, is when you book something, like a commercial, and you've been at it for a long time. And, and you're not old, but you've been at it long enough to really know your stuff, that the promise of what a commercial can be has changed a lot.
Oh, it's so different.
Yeah.
It's so different. I remember, so when I was in school, my teachers would say, like, you could get a commercial and be good for years.
Yeah, exactly.
I had one of my first acting teachers told me that his friend was a woman who was in a Pepperidge Farm commercial, and it was only her hands that were in the commercial. Her hands would just I don't think I ever saw it. I think I'm too young to even know what this one is.
Yeah.
But her hands would take the bread out of the oven and then put it on the windowsill, and then they would go off. He said it would cut off into this farm vista.
Oh, how nice. Yes.
Of course, it's Pepperidge Farm.
Yes.
And he said she paid for like a house, her kid's school.
On that one spot.
On that one spot because it ran for years. It ran, I wasn't born, and it ran until I was probably a kid, like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And it ran for years.
And that was probably Class A use.
Yeah.
Which if you're not familiar, means it was running on networks because there was no cable.
There was no cable. There was nothing. So it was like the dream that we all thought, coming out of school, we could get something like that.
Yeah,
and that was gone. I think the last person who had a spot, well, there's a girl now with Progressive. I don't know what her name, but I know she's
Flo.
Flo.
Yeah,
yes,
she's doing fine.
She's doing fine.
Yeah.
But the one person who was there when I had just started doing commercials was the I don't know the name of this gentleman either, but the guy who was doing the Dell commercials for a while.
Oh, like the kid?
Yeah.
The Dell kid?
The Dell kid.
Yeah.
He was everybody else, it was like, everybody was one and done.
Yeah.
And They don't, and I think if I'm still correct about this, after 13 weeks, the pay rate goes up for us.
Yeah. Or 13 cycles or
13 cycles.
Yeah, which means like if it runs for a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah. See, there we go. And they just make sure that they have a new spot now. It's cheaper to shoot a new spot.
It's true. And for us, it just means that you need to book much more than you ever did to just try and stay afloat. Yeah. And unfortunately, there aren't that many spots. It's not like our, now that they're making more spots, it's not like we're booking that much more often.
No, it's not. Yeah. And they want to make sure, and I don't know, I imagine that they don't want to book the same person each time.
It seems that way, yeah.
I think there are a lot of reasons why one wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
But it's very different for us now. Like we have to book a lot more to get less.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's just true. I think the one thing that is good though about now is that the reason why it is cheaper to make a new spot is because the technology has democratized all of this stuff. Like everything can be done now in a suitcase. All the equipment you need can fit in a suitcase.
Yes.
So because of that, actors have an opportunity to actually learn the other side of the business and to start creating work on their own. And if you can create work that has a demand, then you have an opportunity to draw some more attention to yourself and do more commercials and more TV spots and things.
And I think that's, and I get a sense that's sort of where you're going these days. But we'll talk about that because I want to start. I want to go back to the beginning.
No, it's fine.
All right, where'd you start off? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Harlem. I grew up in Harlem. And New York.
So this is we're in Harlem now.
Yeah,
I won't specify more than that because you're a famous guy and you don't want people hanging out on the corner.
I don't know how famous I am. But.
Don't you hate when people say that? Oh, are you famous? Do I know you? It's like, well, if you have to ask that question,
then I'm not famous.
You're not famous.
It's all right. I can still go to the coffee shop and people let me sip my coffee. And I kind of like that.
And this is your backyard for as long as you can remember.
Yeah, I grew up in this neighborhood, and I lived a couple other places. My mother went to Georgia for a year. My dad had moved out to Long Island, and I that's actually where I started acting because I was with my dad at the time.
Where was that?
He lived in Brentwood.
Okay,
Brentwood, Long Island, and I started acting. Actually, my first acting class was at Nassau Community College.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, especially I grew up on Long Island, and Nassau Community College was just sort of like the
13th
safety net. 13th grade, if you want to put it that way. I was going to be more diplomatic and say that was the safety net of all safety nets. Yeah. If for some reason you didn't get into any school you applied to, you could at least go to community college nearby. Yeah. And it was sort of seen as what you said, 13th grade. Well, but you got very valuable experience.
Well, I did. I mean, okay, well, I'll start out by saying I wasn't a great high school student. So without Nassau Community College and without Suffolk Community College, where I went to later, because I lived in Suffolk County, I used to work on the border of Nassau and Suffolk. So I started going to Nassau, but I stopped wanting to make that trip all the way back to my house. After a year.
And that's a hard trip because what was the
LIE, traffic.
It's the worst.
State Parkway. Yeah. It's just
forget it.
It was the worst.
Yeah.
But I started there, and without. I feel bad for today with the prices of college and the availability of grants. Like when I went, and it wasn't that long ago, the Pell Grant paid for everything. So I didn't, I could go and get my grades together, get myself back on a track to actually do something. And I really wanted to study biology.
Interesting.
And I remember going there and telling the guidance counselor there that I wanted to study biology. And she took one look at my transcript and she said, it's going to take you 5 years to get out of here. And I was 19 and I was like, well, she must be right. She knows something. She's got this job. So I guess I got to figure something else.
That's some positive thinking right there.
But I didn't know what else to do. So I put down biology anyway.
Yeah, of course.
And I started retaking some math courses and doing stuff. And I really did figure out it was going to take a long time for me to go that route, which hindsight, that doesn't matter. It's biology. Who cares how old or young you are when you're a scientist? Nobody cares.
You don't age out of biology,
but
I don't think.
You can't tell anybody that.
Do you think that maybe in biology, like there is the hot young thing?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure it's in every industry.
The cover of Bio magazine has,
Because I grew up thinking that, if you were you knew math. You were just good at math. You came out. You were born like that. Right. It was like a Jesus thing. He blessed you and you came out doing, E equals MC squared. And that's what I thought. Yeah. I was like, well, I definitely didn't get that. So I'm just going to go off into something else. And I changed my major twice in a year.
Yeah.
It went from biology to liberal arts. And in liberal arts is where I went to taking the first acting class. I kind of one day I just figured I would go over and see what they were doing because I'd always thought about it.
You never did anything up until that point?
No, I never done anything up until that point. Yeah. I was a visual artist more. That was actually what I thought I might do. Yeah. And I went into acting because I thought I'd make more money. Again, I was 19.
Yeah.
But, I went into the theater. I went to the theater building and I just opened the door into the theater. And there was a rehearsal going on and everybody goes silent. They turn around, they look at me and they're just like, excuse me? And I'm like, yeah, I just want to, I want to sign up for the acting classes.
Nice.
And this guy who was the director was eventually going to be my teacher. I had no idea at that point. But he looks at me with the biggest scowl and is like, we're rehearsing. I never heard the word before, so I didn't care. I said, yeah, but where do I sign up?
Nice.
He was like, come back tomorrow. So I closed the door and I was like, okay, I don't know what's wrong with him.
That's like a scene from a movie right there.
It was, I really wish it was there. I was so naive getting into this business. I was so naive. So I was as naive as you could be.
You didn't have any sense of how the business worked at all?
Not at all.
That's really interesting. So what was it in your childhood that kind of gave you thoughts of maybe doing that along the way?
My best friend at the time had his own band, was in a movie, and I just thought he was the coolest thing.
There you go.
And I was like, I had tried to be in a band for like 5 minutes, realized, I'm not Jodeci. Yeah. So I can't.
Jodeci isn't Jodeci anymore. So
man, Jodeci will always be Jodeci to me, man. If you were black in the 90s, you wanted to be Jodeci. Okay, that's what you wanted to do. Everything else was secondary. And I realized that that just wasn't me. But I said, he had told me he had acted, he had been in a movie. He actually met Ron Howard, so he'd done a small role in a Ron Howard film.
Wow.
The Paper in the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool. I think I could do that. And I just needed a class to help me, round out my course load at the time. I was taking liberal arts. I said, let me just do it.
Yeah.
So I did it. And I told myself when I went to college that I said, I didn't go right after school. I had actually taken a year off to go to work. Mm-hmm. I worked at New York Newsday.
Oh, wow.
And I had seniority because I had gotten in very early.
What were you doing for the newspaper?
I was what we called collating the papers. So I was putting different sections in the machine to put together.
Okay.
And later on, I was actually a forklift driver driving the pallets of the sorted material.
The guys who do the real work of doing a newspaper who don't get any credit whatsoever.
Yeah. Those guys work, and we would work from 12 to 4 a.m. normally, and on a crazy news day, which would happen, twice a month, we'd work from 12 to 7.
Wow.
And that's a.m.
That's normal, not normal hours for most people.
No. And then I would go to school.
Wow.
I would go home, take a nap, and then I go back to school. I'd take a nap in the middle of the day, and then I finish up. And by that time I was going to school at Suffolk. I had transferred.
Uh-huh.
But the teacher, when I was still at Nassau, I told myself I'm going to do what I'm good at, not necessarily what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I said, because I'm going to school because I want to have an opportunity to find something that I like, but also find something that I like that I can make a living at.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the first year, the only two teachers that told me I should look for a career in the field were the art teachers.
Nice. Yeah, well,
so,
but just as I was saying before, we sometimes look at community college as being this sort of like the also-rans of life, but you can find opportunity anywhere.
You can find opportunity anywhere.
And direction anywhere.
Yeah.
So you found that at community college, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great system, and we need to keep it, because without it, I would never have had an opportunity to go to college, to go on and graduate and have my bachelor's degree and have a career, you know?
Yeah,
and it's not to belittle anybody's job, but I just wouldn't have had that opportunity because, you know, I wasn't the best student. And when I was a kid, my parents were split up, and, you know, it's the same old story. You know, I grew up with not a lot of money. Parents were split up. My parents did the best they could being split up, but you know what happens to kids when that happens. Yeah. So, you know, it just was, without community college, I would not have been able to get myself together and become a student. Yeah.
And it sounds like you learned a real good work ethic, and because this career does require a lot of hard work, and nobody's necessarily going to sit there with a stick making you do it. You have to need it inside of you to get things done. Yeah. So after Suffolk, where did you go?
So Suffolk, at the end of Suffolk, I hadn't finished and graduated, but I auditioned for Julliard. I went to the Irene Ryan competition that year and was feeling pretty good. I had made the regional competition and then made the nationals. So in between the regional and national competition, I decided to take my pieces and audition for new schools because I had already been there for 2 years by that point anyway.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate. I got accepted. I was ready to go to North Carolina because I had teachers telling me about the school. I also auditioned for Carnegie Mellon and got in there. And then someone said that I should audition for Julliard. And I had no idea what Julliard was. That was probably the best thing. And so I literally went to Julliard. People don't believe me when I tell the story, but I literally went to Julliard. I had my girlfriend at the time. And we had just gotten back from the regional competition of the Irene Ryans. And I'm going down and I go to Lincoln Center and I go, hey, is this Julliard? They go, yeah. I want to fill out an application for admission. And they're like, the deadline is in 5 minutes.
Oh, no kidding.
I literally got there with 5 minutes to the deadline.
Holy cow.
And I was like, oh my God. And I looked at the packet and, you know, they wanted all sorts of information that I didn't have on me that day. I was just going to just get the application.
On a lark.
And I looked at it and I said, okay, if I put my name, my address, and my telephone number and give it to you, will you send it back to me for the rest of the information?
Nice.
And will it still be on time? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, cool.
That's brilliant.
I was like, I literally had 5 minutes.
That's brilliant. That's using the system of paperwork to your advantage, man. That's great.
I was, you know, again, it was like, I was like, I have no idea what I love that. I couldn't do anything else. It was all I could do.
That is so great.
And I got the information in and I went on the audition and I ended up getting accepted. And I didn't know if I was going to go. I said, you know, well, I'm really thinking about North Carolina because I really want to get away from my parents because I'm from New York.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for taking that time. But Julliard is Julliard.
Yeah, and one of my other teachers at the time said, boy, if you don't go to Julliard, I'm going to knock you out and drag you there myself.
Good.
So then I was like, okay, I guess I should go. And I went to watch a play by that current year's fourth year class. I was like, yeah, I need to go here.
Do you remember anybody who was in that?
Oh, Lee Pace, Jennifer Ikeda. Gosh, that was Anthony Mackie.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Tracy Toms. That was a great year for that school. That was a great year.
It was a good selling point for the school.
It's still one of the best Richard II's I've ever seen.
Okay, wow.
I've ever seen. It was really great, and I was so intimidated at that point because I was like, I am not this good, and so I was really excited to go and to hunker down and to study. I like studying now, like very different from, I always liked to learn and liked to learn as a kid. I just never liked school. The learning environment was not.
Yeah, it's not right for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people need to learn at their own pace and some people need to learn how to learn in their own time. Yeah. I felt like I was one of those kids who was considered smart, but I was a terrible student. So I never put my work into it because you know how you said that math was something you thought had to be divinically bestowed upon you. I felt that way too. And if it wasn't there, I was frustrated. Yeah. And so I wouldn't put the work into actually learning those like basics so I could apply them and learn bigger things.
Exactly. And you know what's funny? After being in this field now, how many people feel like that about this field? And I'm totally like, no, that's not true. It's work like anything else. Like I know people now who are mathematicians and going to school for math, and they were like, no, it's just, we just had to, I just had to keep working at it. It's just a system. You just figure out the system. You just keep working at it. And I was like, that's the same thing with this. You don't, I don't believe that you have to be talented with that capital T. Mm-hmm. I really do think that hard work, ethic, and just some discipline, doing it all the time, you'll get better and you'll figure it out. Yeah.
I felt like I didn't actually start to learn how to really get things done as an actor until I realized how stupid I was, if that makes any sense. Where it was like I used to, and commercials came very easy to me. Yeah. Because they give you the script and then they have the script in the room. Yeah. And all you have to do is just kind of apply what you can naturally do. And it's like, you're hired. Yeah. But then when it came to TV and film and stuff like that, I treated it the same way. So I was like reading off the script and all that stuff. I didn't actually think about all the hard work you have to do before an audition to be prepared for an audition, to actually get to do the work. And then the work itself, that's a whole nother story.
Thing too. I had to learn that. I actually had to learn that too, because I had been so trained in. Now, Julliard was very intense and very difficult for me, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I really learned how to work, right? They really taught me how to work and how to go into a rehearsal or how to take a script and get ready to begin working. And so I knew how to do that really well, but I hadn't auditioned then in 4 years.
Oh, right. Sure.
Right. I hadn't gone out on an audition. And previous to getting in, I felt like I was a great auditioner. I knew how to take a 2-minute piece and make it something. Yeah. And, I felt like I had forgotten that coming out of school.
Interesting.
Or that now my process takes too long to do that. And I had to learn how to adapt that process for the audition to make things happen quickly in an audition, and also to go, okay, so now the audition's over. We're not going to just keep doing the audition when we get to the rehearsal, right? Or we get to set. Now it's time for us to actually work in with a capital. Yeah. So, and that was Julliard. Really, I wouldn't be the actor I am today without that school.
When you said it was hard, in what sense do you mean that?
So, in my experience, a lot of people don't have. It's a conservatory, so that means that it's an intensive experience. I was in school from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. Had homework that was supposed to be done by the next morning.
Wow. Okay.
It's intense.
Yeah.
It is relentless, and you are being judged all the time on your progress. And when I was there, they still had the cut system, which they don't have anymore. And I'm very glad, because that added pressure I don't think is good on the students. But
explain the cut system, how that worked when you were there.
It was if you weren't making progress in the way that they would like, people would be asked to leave.
And what sort of intervals would that happen?
It usually, for mine, it had changed over the years. It had been different things. When I was there, it usually was after the end of your second year.
Okay.
And then some people, you'd be put on academic probation. You could still be asked to leave up until your third year. But they were really, I get their idea. Their idea was like, we want to see people making progress, and we don't want people here who aren't working hard. They really wanted to instill that idea of working hard. I just think because there's so much stress with that particular school and this particular industry, that I think they made the right decision when they decided to end that.
Yeah, it makes sense to avoid that kind of stress on an artistic person and environment. It does make sense, and I agree with you on that. How much of that experience working at New York Newsday overnights and then going to school and then taking a nap, going back to school and then going back to Newsday, how much of that played into how well you did it at Julliard?
Well, I actually think it was that experience, it just taught me where I wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew I wanted it. So I was like 2 or 3 years older than most of the people because I wasn't coming at that time, and I think still. You could come out of Juilliard right out of a high school. You come to Juilliard right out of high school. Now they have 2 programs. Yeah. They have a BFA and an MFA. I think they still are in the same class. You're just on a different academic track. But when I was there, it was all one track. It was all just BFA. And if you were coming for grad school, you'd get a diploma. But for me, because I had gone.
Good morning, Harlem.
That's Harlem, man. That's Harlem. Because I had worked, I knew what that would be like. I saw people make it, working really hard for salaries that were, for me, it was okay. I was 19. I lived at home.
Yeah.
I got a car that don't cost but $5 to fill up.
Right.
It was fine.
But a 35-year-old with 2 kids.
I was like, I can't see myself doing this there. So I knew when I got to Juilliard, I said, I got an opportunity. I'm going to a great school. Mm-hmm. So I'm hungry. I'm going to take this. I'm going to eat this thing right now. Yeah. And I did. I worked as hard as I could, as hard as I have no regrets about how hard I did work when I worked and when I took a break when I needed to take a break. Mm-hmm. Because I really did. I felt like I really wanted it. I needed it. I knew I wanted to be there. That got me through it, even though it was intense. I knew it was going to be, and I was a little bit older. And I think sometimes it was hard for people who were a little younger than me, who were coming in right out of high school. They may not, sometimes I don't think that some of them understood that aspect of it. Like, it's not college. Mm-hmm. It's a training. It's a preparatory training for a high level of proficiency in an industry. I would say it's more similar to Harvard Business. Okay, like you're expecting whether this is right or not. We're expecting, because of Harvard's reputation, that when the people that graduate that business school come out into the business community, that those are people who are ready to work at the highest level.
Right. That's a stamp that you can take with you and tells people immediately your qualifications.
Yes.
So does Juilliard.
Yes. Yeah. Or MIT math.
Right.
So that's kind of what it is. And so you're held to a different standard.
Sure.
And it was interesting because I had not taken acting classes really.
That's fairly fascinating to think about. Yeah, and even at community college.
I did at community college. It was for 2.5 years.
Yeah,
and it was basically I would have one acting class twice a week.
Yeah, that's not exactly a conservatory schedule there.
No. Yeah, And so when I talk to people who didn't go to a conservatory, that kind of program, or didn't have it in high school, because I know people who had it in high school, so I always felt behind at Juilliard. I always felt like I was playing catch up. But when I got out, and I have friends who went to different schools, and they had to take your prerequisites as well, your biology 101, and all this. I said, we didn't even have time for that.
Sure.
There was no way we could do that.
Yeah.
So for me coming back out, the hardest thing was having all the time in the world. Now your time is your own. You've got to make your schedule. You're waiting for your agents to call you.
Yeah.
How do you how do I keep that discipline out in New York City, where everything's available to me every minute, and I have the free time to take advantage of it.
And there's no roadmap.
No.
Zero roadmap. I mean, to every single person I've had on this podcast who comes out of any school, no matter what school, as an actor, nobody knows what the hell to do the second they hit the ground. No, it's amazing.
No.
But you said you had agents. How quickly did that develop?
That happened for me, and this is where Juilliard, and this is one of the reasons why I went to Juilliard. I mean, you go to a big name school because people in the industry look at it.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate. My agents, my managers saw me at my showcase, and we signed together after that.
Wow.
And I've been with my managers ever since, and they're really great. I'm very fortunate, and I use that word in the ancient way of like, it's the god of fortune has smiled on me, because I don't know how other people do it, how they pound the pavement and get people to notice them. I'm in total awe and total respect for it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went the other route where I kind of came into it without a conservatory background. And it took me about, 5 years. Well, no, commercial-wise different because it's just a different beast. But as far as getting interest from managers and agents, it took me a solid 5 years of just working on stuff to figure out even how to approach them properly and to grow into who I was. So I probably, if you compress the amount of time I worked on stuff that didn't pay anything or paid very little, you might have a fraction of the hours you spent in the conservatory. It just, you either want to do it all at once or you want to spread it out over a bunch of different years. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that makes a lot of sense. It's been for me, because I know that, it's just true. Managers and agents open other doors for you that are just closed. And so everybody wants one and everybody's looking to get attention. And I always feel really bad when people ask me, I go, I have no idea how to do it. They came to my school and they saw me.
Yeah.
That part of it, in quotes, was easy for me.
And you did. I mean, it's a very different idea. And in retrospect, I might think to myself, that was a terrible analogy, but I'm going to go with it anyway. If you are trying to be in a fight, and you have gone through Marine Corps training, you have dedicated a lot of your time and your life to learning the art of combat, such that when you're done with that, you're not thinking about how you can survive that fight. You're just going to just do it.
Yeah. Whereas, that's actually a good analogy. I use that analogy often.
Good. Okay.
I always say I'm like a Navy SEAL.
Yes. Yeah.
For what we do. I was like, there was a lot of money and time spent on me just doing this thing.
And you invested that of your life, and you didn't do anything else outside of it.
I didn't do anything else.
Yeah. So you were there.
Yeah.
And you were focused.
Yeah.
And gladly you ended up with a career that came out of it. Because I know some people go to conservatory and don't do anything with it. And that to me seems like the biggest shame in the world.
It's all personal too.
Yes.
Because some people go and realize that this is not who they are. This is not what they want.
And that's okay. I mean, maybe after a year, but if you spend all that time and all that money in any career training, and you don't end up using it, it just seems like such an unfortunate waste of money and time.
Well, also, unlike the thing that is the Marine analogy or the SEAL analogy is different, is that when the SEALs graduate, everybody is needed.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Everybody is needed. And it's a more objective job, whereas did you complete the mission or not?
True.
What happens for us, and this is difficult, especially as an African American, you come out. There's a whole realm of things that you have to deal with. First of all, if you're African American, Hispanic, Asian, there is not as many roles written for you.
Right.
So
and haven't been through history.
So if somebody's doing, we like to joke when I talk to my other friends who are minorities. We'll joke and we say we can just look at backstage and look at what the season is and know whether or not we're going to have a long season or not.
Yeah.
I worked one show, Playwrights Horizons, and someone who was managing someone saw me in that show, really liked me, and didn't know I had representation. So she started to ask me to feel out where I was in my career. And she said, how often do you work? And I said, I work a lot. I work about once a year. And she looked at me and she said, that's not a lot. It's not a lot at all. And I said, how many African-American clients do you represent? She said, none.
There.
It's it is very different. And I know that there were, even the Emmys, we had 3 African-American women win an Emmy the other night. But if we still take the if we do the numbers and talk about how many roles were offered, how many roles are out there,
right,
it's still a huge minority. And I think in 2005, the year I graduated, I looked at this statistic for equity. Mm-hmm. And it said that African Americans made up about 16% of the union. I remember it said Asians made up 3% of the union. I forget what it said about Latinos. So everybody else was white.
Yeah.
And I think it said that the number of roles, I remember it said the number of roles was less than 16% by African Americans. I don't remember the exact number, but it was less than 16%.
That's not equitable.
So it's not equitable. It's not equitable. So, it's like we don't get a chance to work at the same number we represent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, and this is something I'll also say too about some of the numbers that'll come out, you don't know how many of those were specifically for African Americans or somebody off caste.
Yes. Yeah.
Which will happen, which to a large degree has given me a career because I normally am off caste.
Interesting.
I'm normally off caste. And without Shakespeare, and I'll say this too, if I hadn't, another thing about going to Julliard, but if I hadn't been such trained in classical acting and done so much Shakespeare, because in this country we allow Shakespeare to be done by everybody.
Right.
For some reason, on stage, we can do a play that was written pre-1900, mm-hmm. or I should say pre-1800.
Right.
And it's okay for anyone to play that, unlike on screen.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah. But it's okay. But as we start getting closer and closer to modern day, that starts to change a lot.
Do you think there's a rational part of that, though? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No,
because I'm thinking of it as, like, let's say comic books. Mm-hmm. Comic books are our modern day lore. Mm-hmm. And growing up watching Superman, mm-hmm. you have a vision in your head of what Superman should look like. Mm-hmm. When they try to cast Nicolas Cage as Superman, I went, no, because it just didn't fit the part. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, color plays into that. Mm-hmm. What do you say to somebody who suggests that it's part of what happens?
Okay.
And that we need to have, quote unquote, historical accuracy in terms of adhering to the source work, whether it was fiction or nonfiction.
Well, the reason... Okay, so this is complicated.
Good, I'm glad.
The reason why our stereotypes are the way they are, and we think about these stereotypes or archetypes about character they come directly out of a socio-economic political history of this country that is predicated on a caste system based on blackness and whiteness. And so we have to understand, anytime we start, any one of us, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're American, that is drilled into you from day one. Our systems replicate it and reproduce it, and it's been happening and still happening today. So anytime we start to talk about what someone should look like if they're an American, mm-hmm. an American character, whether fictional or non-fictional, we are automatically dealing with the structures of races, of slavery, segregation, and now the criminal justice and educational dichotomy that is this society. Racism under a large bubble. Mm. So those things are man-made. Mm-hmm. They do not exist objectively in the world, right? So if that is the case, then I always argue back, this whole thing, let me stop. The other part of that is our acting tradition and the history of our acting tradition. Why do we cast the way we do? Why do we say real? Because when Shakespeare was writing the idea of real, he would have not understood that. Right? It is a movement coming from the late 19th century, naturalism, and trying to replicate on stage at that time, because film is in its infancy, as closely as possible real life on stage, to a point where I read one story that somebody on the Moscow Art Theater, they brought an actual living tree onto this, like they took it out of the ground and put it on stage because they were so, the idea of real came in.
Sure.
Then, before then, this idea of things having to be real in a sense that it looks exactly like we see outside, and including mirroring our socioeconomic situation outside. That didn't exist. This whole thing was pretend, and everybody had understood that, and romanticism had been before that. So real was not even, it was bigger than real. It was bigger than life. Real was too small. So now that leads into us with Stanislavski and a tradition of acting based on human psychology and real human emotions, feelings, and history being worked into the theater. And so when we get to talk about casting, we start to talk about, well, is someone physically right for the part? Because we're looking for, we have assigned certain physical traits, certain emotional traits. We've assigned that. Yeah. And so now we're saying that these physicalities match this emotional sensibility. And that is not always true in real life, but that's what we've associated. And we're trying to stay real. So we'll say someone who is a gangster wears a wife beater and boots. And, because we see that outside in life, and that's what they have to wear on stage or on screen now. Right. But all of that stuff is man-made. It's a totally man-made concept. And if we understand that, then I would say, why can't Superman be black? First of all, he's an American. He's somebody who can just be hired.
Well, he's Kryptonian, to be honest.
I'm not talking about the actor, but if we're talking about Superman, yes, he's Kryptonian. Krypton doesn't even exist. Yeah. Krypton, they can have 3 heads. Yes. You know what I mean? He just has to be able to blend in with any human being. Yes. And there are a lot of different types of human beings on the world. True. So Superman, but we think that because Superman was created in the 50s, coming out of, is it Nebraska? The Midwest.
I think it was Nebraska. I think, somewhere in the Midwest.
But in the Midwest, and we associate that with the exodus of white European farmers to the Midwest from the 19th century. After the conquering of the West and the moving out of the Indians, and that those are the farmers that settled the area. And by the 50s, they're changing over to the industrial agricultural society, and those are the guys who are farming the land now. Yeah.
So there is an incredible amount of historical influence that goes into any of these decisions, and even how we feel about them, which is pretty amazing to think about it. I'm very neutral when it comes to who can play what. I don't care if it's a great performance. Yeah, awesome. But it is interesting from a psychological standpoint to look at what happens to our brains when we're faced with like a Nicolas Cage as Superman. I'm just using my own experience where it's like that totally blows my mind. Now, as you were saying this, I thought I'd figured I'll throw you a real curveball, please, and because I'm curious to know how you'd feel about it. And taking the historical influence aside, if you found out tomorrow that they were doing a remake of Malcolm X with like Michael Fassbender,
like Michael Fassbender,
if he was playing Malcolm X, how would you feel about that?
If employment was equitable all across the board for anybody, regardless of
I know it's such a hard question to answer.
Then I would have no problem with it.
Interesting. Okay,
I would have no problem.
It would be fascinating to watch just to see what it would do.
And people ask that question about August Wilson. I'm like, I would have no problem if you want to do August Wilson with an all-white troupe, as long as the basis of the entire business, employment, is equitable for everybody. Right. The reason why a lot of people, especially African Americans, will try to hold on so hard to this is my opinion about it, that we try to hold on so hard to the stories that are written by African Americans for African Americans is because we don't get to work. Yeah. And the audience doesn't get to hear our stories. Right. So we hold on to those. But if everything was equal, and if I can go out and play James Bond tomorrow, he can totally play Malcolm X.
All right, so there's a chance I could still play. I can still be in Raisin in the Sun. Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. That's fine.
But do you think, from that standpoint, and we're getting into really technical stuff here as an actor, how would you, let's say as a director, tell somebody? Let's say I was playing as the lead in A Raisin in the Sun. If I use my own experience to inform the character as a schlubby white guy, to create the character off of, versus trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who was black in that stage of the game, who was completely different from who I was as a person. How would you as a director approach that?
Well, I would just say, look at the human stuff first and figure out how you connect to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the big issue in Raisin in the Sun is dried up dreams. Right? And so you've got to connect to that first. Then we can talk about how this person would walk and talk because of the socioeconomic upbringing that they have. Right. And so we can talk about like how well you need to learn a dialect. How, do you understand the different, is there a slight different physicality from you and most people from this area? Do you
differentiate the dialect and the physicality from skin color?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because, don't we understand that right now? Like, there are so many white people that speak Ebonic dialect now.
That's true, yes.
Because it's everywhere.
Well, I guess one is you're born with and one you're not born with.
And one you're not born with. And I, right now, am not speaking the accent that I was born with.
Right.
You know? So,
or were you born with it, or did you learn it over time?
No, this is you.
That's my question.
I went to Julliard for 14 hours a day. I was drilled in the Edith Skinner manner of speech. Okay?
But let's just say you were born directly from birth into Julliard. How do you think you would then? What would you consider to be your birthright speech?
I'm from Harlem, New York, and so there is a dialect that is. It's changing because so much movement is happening in my own lifetime.
Yes.
But when I was growing up, you had people used to think I was Southern because my grandparents migrated here from South Carolina. So they took that Southern African Ebonic dialect and they brought it up to New York. And in New York, a lot of people came from different regions of the South with different variants of that dialect. And those people came to New York. They had kids. My parents' generation created something that was totally New York because they didn't grow up down south, but it had come from down south. So there were some sound changes that were similar, that were very different from people who were living in New York. And usually the white population who was native to New York, but also the black population that was native to New York, because New York had a large free black population for a long time. So, that sound was what I grew up with.
Right.
And that sound was what I spoke with. And I actually had problems when I first started acting because I was told I had black speech. My voice, my diction was never going to be good enough to do Shakespeare.
Which sounds silly. He listened to you today,
But that was what was said about me. And I don't think those people said it realizing what it sounded like.
Yes. Yeah. And do you think there is, all the historical stuff we talked about in the past, do you automatically assume when somebody says something like that, or what do you assume when somebody says something like that?
I assume, the first thing I assume is ignorance. Okay. Just or naivety, things that you're just not aware.
I tend to go on that side of things too, because I think it's the fairest route to take. But there's that part of me that's like, you are a racist jackass.
The thing is that, okay, let's go with the word prejudice right now, because racism, the term includes a bias of power. So, but let's say this about everybody in this country. If you grew up in this country, you prejudiced. You can't not be. How can you not be? The whole society is predicated upon it. So,
do you think that it is true for all countries or just the United States?
Maybe it is, but I'm from here.
Okay, so you don't know. Okay.
I can't speak. I can't speak for other countries. But I don't understand how you could not be. You just might not even like the Joneses across the street because the name's the Joneses, because we have that so much, and segregation, especially our parents' generation and on this generation, has so much influence on us.
Yeah, and we're not that far removed from it.
We're not that far removed.
And that's a shame, because I think I would love in my lifetime to think that I will see a world where it doesn't matter. Yeah. And there are times when I see glimmers of that, where it's like you see kids of all colors hanging out and enjoying each other's company, and they don't care. I look at my kids, that could not care less about what the color of anybody's skin is or what their background is. They just want to have someone to play with when they go to the park. That's it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to be something that continues until, they're adults.
I think that about this country, that's something that is actually really nice to see. You see that a lot more in our everyday person-to-person relationships. That has changed a lot, changed dramatically. But the systems are still in place.
Which is the part of the problem.
Which is the other part of the problem, is that the systems are still in place. And we haven't figured out how to change the systems so that it reflects that. And I think it will change because every year by year, on the individual basis, it is changing a lot. And so sooner or later, those individuals have to be able to be in charge of the system and to make changes.
That's the hope.
So that's the hope.
And that they're not so disillusioned.
Years old, so
wait, say again?
I said most Republicans I heard are 35 years old. Like that's the average age of a Republican.
Well, let's shoot for the 10-year-olds. let's keep shooting for the 10-year-olds. All right. So we spent a lot of time on that, and I really appreciate it because it's really fascinating stuff. We can talk at length for hours about that. And I think it's an important conversation. So I don't want to cut that off necessarily. No. But I do want to hear about your experience with the president and the first lady, because that's a great story.
So Raisin the Sun, they came. First of all, I have to start this off by saying the day I came to work, I have never gone to Times Square and it been shut down.
Oh,
I was like, I literally came around the corners. I think we were on 46. I think that was 46 the theater was on. Came around the corner. And I mean, it was like you could see tumbleweeds go down the street. I mean, it was silent. It was not only empty, but silent. I was like, that is power.
How were you able to get to the theater? Did you have to go through anything special?
Oh, yeah, I had to. I tried to come around one side, and they were like, no, you got to go around the other side. So I had to go back uptown and back around to the east side of the theater, come up that side of the street. Jeez. And when I came in, and this is scary too, when you come in and somebody looks at you and goes, oh, yeah, you're good.
Wow.
You don't say anything.
Wow.
You don't say anything. They knew beforehand, and they had pictures. Those guys, the Secret Service, those are some scary dudes.
They have to be.
Those are, I mean, the only way I can describe these guys they are manimals. They are above human beings.
Are they Cylon?
They must be. They must be. One of my dressing roommate had great story. My dressing roommate was like, Obama's downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run downstairs. I'm just going to shake his hand. I'm just going to say what they going to do to me, Keith. They're not going to. Don't run downstairs, man. Don't run anywhere.
Yeah,
don't run to the bathroom. Don't have a quick walk and pace. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to do. What they going to do to me? What they going to do? I'm in the show. It's like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And there was another gentleman in our dressing room at that point, and he was like, well, I got to go change. So he opened the door, and literally as he opened the door, this manimal gets up with this rifle as big as I stand up and is like, hey, reaches up, one arm muscle ups himself out the trap door onto the roof with this sniper rifle and is gone. And I was like, where you going?
Oh, man.
Where you going?
Yeah, this is not a normal day at the theater.
This is not a normal day at the theater. I was like, these guys, they just knew, apparently they had been there undercover for weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Weeks. They had staked out the place. They had come during off hours. They knew every entrance, every exit.
And it was totally shadowy and like you didn't know what was happening?
Oh no, by the time they got there for the show.
Oh no, before that.
Yeah, before that. I had no idea.
That's so cool.
I had no idea.
And how far in advance did you know the president was going to come see you perform?
Oh, not that long.
Really? Okay.
We had an inkling that they might come because they had come to see, I think, did Michelle come to see Denzel? Somebody said they were going to come because they had been to see Raisin when Kenny did it again before, at the theater, a couple of years before with Puff Daddy.
Okay.
So I think that was it. So they said this might happen.
Wow.
And I think when they said it might happen, they probably already knew because the schedule probably for the president has to be so far in advance.
Yeah, but I don't think they want to let that out too early.
Well, I think what would have happened was they might have said, we need to come and check this place out.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, so that would have been known ahead of time. And I think they had a long process to figure out when he was coming. And those guys came so far before. Like, they really knew every inch of the building and the mechanisms. They were posted like around the staircases. You know, I'm running downstairs and one guy was like, "You got time? It's okay. You can slow down." I was just like, the Secret Service they're a well-oiled machine.
Serious business.
But anyway, they come in, right before curtain, they run the president in, they sit down, him and the first lady sit down, they're there, and everybody, we can't start because everybody's clapping. It's a great show. And intermission, they're like, "Don't go anywhere. We're going to bring you downstairs. They're going to meet you." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going, right? I'm going to be the one. They're going to get to meet me too, right?"
Yeah, right.
So, and they're like, yeah, we're going to take everybody in the cast. So we went down, and downstairs, we're waiting. And, all of a sudden, they come through the door.
Wow. And
the first thing I thought was, he's so tall. He's so tall.
And you're not a short guy.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I was like, oh, I'm craning my neck.
Wow.
And, I tell you, man, he looks you in the eye, he shakes your hand, he's like, "How you doing? What is your name?" I was just like, all right.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And Michelle was the same way. She was like, "She's so tall." But then I remembered that like all the Secret Service were around, so I was afraid to shake her hand because I was like, I don't want anybody getting anything mistaken.
Right. Now it's interesting because you've performed with and around big names. Mm-hmm. It's not new to you. Mm-hmm. Did this one change your performance at all? Did this one stick in the back of your mind? Because there are very few people in the world that I would be very like hyped up to meet. It's just not my nature. But I think the president, especially this president, would be somebody who I'd feel an amazing amount of importance.
Oh man,
in meeting.
I'll say this: I was not the most important person telling the story in this show. Everybody's important, of course.
Yes,
but there were names that were just much grander than mine. They did make the feeling of the night much more electric because with everything that goes along performing for them, and this being the first African American president, like there's so much electricity in the air, and this being a historical show, and everything about it was electric. I just really wanted to make sure I didn't miss any entrance or exits.
Sure.
That was I was like, I'm just going to be downstairs. Like all my conversations got cut short so I could make my entrances and my exits. Like that was really all I was worried. I said, if I get on stage, I'm all right. Yeah. Just be on stage, Keith. Be on stage.
And don't make eye contact because that'll ruin it.
No, that'll ruin it. Yeah, it's like just go ahead, say a line, and get off.
Wow. Wow.
So that was, but it really was everything. Like once on the stage for me, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's everything outside the stage that's like, oh my God.
Do you find yourself getting nervous still?
Not very often.
Yeah.
Not very often. I'm much more comfortable on the stage and performing than I used to be. I can get nervous. I get nervous more in rehearsals than I do now into performances. And it's more about, I think for me, nervousness is either, if something is new for me, like, so the first time I've worked on these stages like Broadway or the Public and very nervous, it's like, I'm excited because I want to be there, but I don't get nervous anymore because in terms of what I do, I know how, I have my process. I know how to work, and I trust that now. It took a while, but I trust that. And so I know that if I prepare well, then I can, even on an off day, I'm doing something right.
Yeah. And isn't that speak to everything we were saying about the work that goes into what we do?
Yes.
Because the performance should not be anything to be nervous about if you have done the work necessary before you get to the stage. Yeah. And I always feel like once I hit the stage, everything else in the world shuts out. And I feel like I'm in that zone that athletes talk about.
Yeah. I mean, even on set, the thing is like, it's so much about what athletes talk about, because really the person who wins the gold medal, Like Usain Bolt doesn't win the gold medal in the 100 the day of the meet.
Right.
He really won that in practice.
Yeah.
He won that in his
years and years ago, even.
Years and years ago. All the training that he's done to get him to that point.
Yes.
Because really at that point, all he did was just run.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
And it's the thing I'm trying to teach my kids now that I wish I had a better sense of growing up, is that tests are really just a philosophical anomaly, let's say.
Yeah.
The work that you can do to prepare for a test is really what you're being tested on.
Yes.
And if you fail a test, somebody can critique that and say, oh, you didn't do well. But if you work on it up until the test, nobody can tell you you did badly. So it's like, I wish I had a better value of the work as a kid than I do now. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what you got out of your training and what you're finding out now.
Yeah. It's just, if I do those little things that, go see shows, I try to go see. I don't always get to, but I try to go see shows. Read a play or work on a script. And sometimes for me, I'm fortunate enough that I'm getting enough auditions that I'm working all the time. Yeah. But then when you get a job, like, you start working on it the moment you get hired. You don't work on it the first day of rehearsal, even if the director or the producers, in my opinion, ask you to.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait. I still come in with stuff. I've always, I do homework. It's that work that then I can just go and just play. For me, I'm freer.
Right. Right.
And when I did Cyrano in 2007 with Kevin Kline, we did the first reading. He was the only person off book for it and was able to play so much. And I learned so much watching him rehearse, because he was really not just a star, but a working actor as well. He's somebody that has a process, and he works through his own process. And no matter whether, because we all can't win over every audience member, so no matter whether someone is a huge fan of his or not, I'm a fan of his work ethic, the way he worked on that show. I've never seen anybody work, up until that point, never seen anybody work that meticulously on a role. He knew what he wanted to say, what he needed to say when he came in the first day. So then he could work on physicality and moments. And just sometimes watching him come up with some of those moments it just blew me away. Watching the rehearsal, watching him rehearse blew me away. And I'm not trying to take away from his performance at all. I thought he gave a great performance, but because I got that opportunity, that's what's burned into my brain. It's how he rehearsed. I
don't think you're taking away from him at all. I think you're actually honoring the work he does up until the point. And as an actor, I'd want somebody to find something in what I do fascinating in that way, even if it is in rehearsal, because it means that I'm actually doing something that makes somebody think or feel or whatever, And I think it is honoring somebody's career by noticing those things, because that's the thing I live for. In those moments where they go, I saw that you did that. And it's like, man, somebody noticed something. That's awesome. He
was great.
I believe it, and he's always been top notch at everything he does. So it's not hard to believe that. We're probably going to wrap this up in a second, but I did want to talk about the project you're working on now, the film.
Yeah, it's called When Things Fall Apart, and it's about a polyamorous family who breaks apart over the course of an evening. It's a 20-minute short, and we're going to try and put it in some web film festivals and see how it goes. I was very fortunate. I got a lot of my friends that work in it with me, Sam Soul and Michael Markham and Michelle Lafitte. They're all really great New York actors working on the stage and working in some film. It'll be out. We're going to post it after we send it to the festivals. We'll post it up on YouTube. So there'll be more stuff coming out about it.
Cool. Polyamory is an interesting subject. How did you come up with that?
Well, the way it was born was I was asked to write something for the Fleas 1 minute festivals. Yep. And they called me up, and they had lost a writer, and they got my name, and they said, we have 48 hours to get this done, and there's 5 men and 1 girl. Okay. And everybody has to be in it. Everybody has to have a part. And can you do this? I said, sure. I was like, do you want a comedy drum? He said, actually, we do a lot of comedy, so can we get something else? And I said, sure. So I said, okay. I hung up the phone and said, okay, 5 guys and 1 girl. 5 girls and 1 guy. What?
Oh wait, which one is it? 5 girls and 1 guy.
5 girls and 1 guy.
Oh, it's even harder.
It was like, yeah. I was like, what am I going to write about that? And so I just shut my judgment brain off. I said, okay, you just got to start writing it. I just started writing, and that's what came out.
Wow.
And it was like, I guess because I had just started hearing about stuff like that. I just started hearing about those kinds of relationships.
So it was very new and interesting in your mind? Sure.
Like, okay. And, for me, it asks a lot of questions about, it ends up asking a lot of questions about utopia. About, is this is better than this? And is that right? And what happens when we do try to attain this idea? That's kind of where the spark of it.
Interesting.
And yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, that's great stuff. How do people keep in touch with you? Where are you online?
I'm on Facebook. I don't have a website. Facebook is the greatest place to find out about me because it's easy for me to post up there. But, my email is just my name at Gmail, so people can follow me, just send me info. But really, that's the best place is my Facebook page.
Do the
Facebook
Twitter thing?
I do have Twitter.
Oh, there you go. Twitter too.
So yeah, Twitter too. Keith E. Chappelle 1.
Keith E. Chappelle 1 because Keith E. Chappelle
was taken.
That bastard. Does he know how important that name is to you?
I know. I would have to buy it from him, and I don't want to do that.
Nah, let him have his fun. Yeah, Keith E. Chappelle, that's fine.
Yeah,
Keith E. Chappelle 1. That's where you go to find out about this Keith Eric Chappelle.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for doing this, man.
Hey, man, thank you for asking me, man. This is great.
Thanks. Keith Eric Chappelle, cool dude. Really enjoyed talking to him and digging in on some of those subjects we got into there. It's always good to really talk about things. And I think Keith Eric gets that. And I'm glad that he was able to engage me in that kind of conversation. And, you learn things as you go. And the more we learn, the more we open up our minds, the more we can communicate with one another. And, I know I'm better for having had that conversation. And I hope you were for listening to it. And I want to thank Keith for inviting me to his home in the hustling and bustling Harlem and just chatting with me, because that was a super cool conversation. If you want to keep up with him, as he mentioned, he's on Facebook, but you can also follow him on Twitter at Keith Chappelle 1. I'll have a link to that in the show notes for this episode at bringyourownlunch.com. Thanks, Keith, for being a good guy and for sharing your story, and I really look forward to following your career as it goes upward and onward to bigger and better things. All right, that about does it for another edition of Bring Your Own Lunch. Thank you for being here. Glad you can join us. Also, thank you, Banuba, banuba.net, BANOOBA.net. Banuba is the band you're listening to right now. Go to their website, download their music, buy their music, go see them live, check them out, follow them, become groupies of them, and just make sure you tell them Dave says hi. Don't forget to go to our website, bringyourownlunch.com, find out all the information about the guests on this program, past, present, and presumably future. We got pics of Keith Eric Chappelle's career on the website this week. Like us on Facebook.com/BringYourOwnLunch. You can follow us on Twitter at BYOL Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Bring Your Own Lunch. And if you have a moment, please, please, please go to iTunes or Stitcher and rate, review, and subscribe to Bring Your Own Lunch. And if you do, send us an email or a text or a tweet or a Facebook message or an Instagram comment and hashtag it BYOL so we know that you are part of the BYOL crew. I just made that up. Stay tuned for Jimmy Jack's Cow Punch Hour, followed by Mansoor and the Fish. And until next week, when I've got another great guest lined up, this is Dave. I'll see you next week. Oh, can't believe you've done this.